Welcome to Biztech's CEO Conversation Show, the show where we engage industry leaders to share insights into how they run and grow their organizations. Today, our conversation is with the CEO of Rajhi Bank, Malaysia, Arsalaan Ahmed. Arsalaan, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Brian, for having me, and thank you to the Biztech team for setting this all up.
Now, you're referred to as Oz in the industry, so I'm going to call you that during this conversation. Oz, could you start by giving us an overview of Rajhi Bank, Malaysia, and its history?
Well, actually, if you don't mind, I'll start with Rajhi Group generally.
Okay.
It shares something in common with Malaysia in that Rajhi Group was founded in 1957. It is one of the largest banks in the world, market capitalization, in fact, in the top 20, but of course, the largest Islamic bank in the world. And Rajhi in Malaysia was set up in 2006. To date, we have nationwide branches, around 16, around all of Malaysia. And I think that we're a bank that's typically known for Hajj and Umrah, which is something that I learned when I got here, and certainly that corridor. And it's a purely Islamic bank, obviously with a shareholder based in Saudi Arabia. And we are a member of IBIM, and recently we have also joined the VBI community of practitioners, which is a group that is pushing forward the sustainability agenda, not just in Islamic banking, but leading the way in banking and sustainability within Malaysia. So that's just a little bit about us.
Okay, now you've been at the bank for 8 months. What did you find when you first arrived from HSBC Amanah?
Well, the first thing I found was, and it's something, and I had this in very, very close proximity, and I'll explain why, because usually when I start a role, I spend the first 30 days trying to meet every single individual that works in the bank. And with the benefit of technology, I managed to do that. So the impressions that I got initially was it was a bank that definitely wanted to do more, understood its heritage, understood its relative position in the market, but was very keen to take a new direction, to grow the business and actually be a leader within the market.
Okay, so I'm going to set a context in terms of your financial performance. 2019, you had a net profit of 29.31 million. Financial year 2020, however, that slipped to a loss of 62.71 million. Overall, corporate financing is 71% of your total business, just to set that. So from an expectation standpoint, when you were hired, what does your chairman, John Winfield, and the rest of the board expect from you?
Very simply, it's transformation. It's a complete turnaround, and including the shareholder as well. What they're looking for is for Rajhi to take a position that it should be in any Islamic banking market. Its DNA is purely Islamic finance, and it should be a leader in each of the markets that it operates in. That hasn't been the case in Malaysia. So very simply, the agenda is transformation. That's very much from both the shareholder and the board perspective.
Okay, so if you want to do transformation, the first thing you need to do is situational analysis. Could you give us an insight into what you found from, and you said you had good people, you talked to each one of them, but where were you at, in your opinion, in terms of technology, processes, your customers, human capital, and culture when you arrived?
So I'm going to take you through all of those, but where I would start with is, what do we mean and what does our brand mean to our customers? And the answer to that was unidentified. And that is where it needs to start. You're in a community, you're looking to serve the community, but how are you looking to serve the community? Every day when people are focusing on what they do, what is it? That was missing. So because of that, it very much was the case that our processes, our technology, our product depth, looking at it objectively, looking at it coming from, in league tables, the leading Islamic bank, I can certainly say that we were in first gear. So people will turn around and say, well, that's terrible. What do you do with that? I say that's an opportunity, because there's so many things that you can reset, and reset probably faster, make clean decisions and bigger decisions to move forward. But I would certainly say, if I was taking situational analysis, if you looked at whichever kind of business school kind of model, and you put it in, a 4-box matrix, it wouldn't have ranked particularly well. But what is very clear is that there's an understanding from whether it's the shareholder, whether it's the board, whether it's the people within the organization, that is not the position we should be in, that is not acceptable, and we're going to work together to change that and change that radically and quickly.
Okay, so this is not the first time Al Rajhi has embarked, since it's been in Malaysia, on a turnaround strategy. What's the strategy now, and how are you going to get there?
Yeah, so I want to nail this down into specifics, and just because that's the best way for people to understand the challenges that they face. Were any new banks really going to walk into Malaysia and compete with heavy capital expenditure branch-based banking against the behemoths that are already here? And I think some people thought that they would, but that strategy has proven itself from many of the new entrants that didn't have a long history here as a challenging strategy.
Yes.
Then looking at, say, well, we don't know the market so well, so we'll pick and choose what we do from a corporate perspective, maybe. Again, is that really going to drive, are you really going to drive a strategy only focused on that? And we've seen those models with some of those new entrant banks over the last, say, decade, 15, 20 years. What's happened and what is different now is that whether it's the central bank, whether it's government, MDEC, and so on and so forth, there is a big shift towards the fourth industrial revolution, but also in terms of digital and technology regarding financial services. What that does is lower the barriers for competition very significantly. Now, if you couple that with the group's leadership in technology and banking, we suddenly have a formula that we can win. It needs to be executed, but it's a formula that can win. Many of the issues that banks face in understanding how to move forward technology within their institutions is a mindset and a culture issue. People doing things the old way over the last 20, 30 years, that's what they know, not really knowing what's coming and how that can benefit the institution. Now, our Rajhi Bank, because of the DNA from its main bank in KSA, is very much a leader in technology, so understands how to navigate that. We now have this very accommodative environment of pushing forward with technology to grow businesses, to introduce new channels, and so on and so forth. So that is going to be a mainstay of how we're going to take the strategy forward. But that's kind of a technical point and something we think we have the mindset and the execution capability to do. But in addition, we need to start to get closer to customers. It's something that banks don't do very well. And I think it's fair for the industry to call that out, because we need to do better by our customers. Really understanding our customer journeys as opposed to products that might fit at some point is what we need to get closer to. And the folks we need to get closer to are our retail customers and certainly our real economy corporate customers. So those are two very strong areas that we're going to focus on, that we want to show leadership in.
Okay, Oz, I did an interview with the CIO Association of India, and they did a survey among 15 large FSIs in India on digital transformation. And one of the key takeaways from that was really how they had, as part of this whole pivoting journey over the last 18 months or so, they developed a lot of solutions to address exactly what you just said. It's customer intimacy. Because essentially the touch points for the customer didn't have to be physical anymore, they were able to then derive a lot of insights into what their customers really wanted and how they were transacting. Now, so from what you're saying, that's the strategy to basically then reinvent yourself as Al Rajhi Bank in Malaysia.
That's right. But also what we need to do is take benefit. And I think that maybe I hadn't had the benefit of seeing that interview, but I think the following thing would have come out. There is definitely a growing ecosystem within Asia, within ASEAN, and within Malaysia as well, in terms of technology companies, entrepreneurship, fintechs, and so on and so forth. Now, the best way to interact with those are through collaborations. So when you collaborate with this ecosystem, understanding that they can help you to become closer to your customers, to meet those, help meet their needs at critical times. Those are the types of things that we're going to be focused on. And that's something that I would say to fintechs and entrepreneurial companies out there, that a Rajhi Bank will be in the position to be collaborating with people as we take forward our agenda. And it's important for, I think, when we step outside of our individual institution, look at where the country is, look at that we need to work together to take the country forward after this terrible pandemic and effectively activity constraints for a significant period of time. We need to take that collaborative approach to get out of first and then go into second, third gear from an economy perspective. And as we do so, as we collaborate, there'll be benefits for everybody working in collaboration. So yes, there's an individual side to help service our customers more that we think would benefit from collaboration with fintechs and others, but also stepping outside of ourselves, looking around at the difficulties that everybody's facing and what role we can play to move the economy forward, I think is even more important to do such collaborations.
Now, Oz, one of the things that will impact your ability to turn around is legacy issues with the bank in terms of your loan portfolios and so forth. Have you already completed kitchen sinking exercises and now start with a relatively clean sheet of paper?
So in terms of, and I suppose this is reference to some of the impact to the P&L last year, certainly we had an impact that was because of the moratorium and so on and so forth. We've taken that impact, and it is fair to say that this year is also challenging for all financial institutions. So there will definitely be challenges for all banks this year. So let's break it up into two. In terms of kind of running off or taking an impact for a book, banks are going to be in that situation this year as well, with the extension of another moratorium and so on and so forth.
Yes.
So we need to break out what we are doing in the short term and long term. And most of the time people say, well, you can't do that. No, you can do it, it's just hard. So we need to be able to not just stop doing business in the short term because we don't want to, something's happening, we don't want another, so on and so forth. What will happen if we do more business? Let's just wait for things to get better. I don't think that's the right thing to do, and we as an organization don't think that's the right thing to do. At the same time, we need to invest in the future. So I'm going to break those into two. In the short term, as mad as this may sound, we're actually growing our business in this climate. Why? Again, coming back down to that nature of Islamic banking, we had a discussion to understand what is it that our customers are going through. You're going to have customers who cannot come to branches or something like that, they're kind of MCO and so on and so forth. So we accelerated our plans on eKYC, and we're one of the early adopters using eKYC now.
Okay.
Number two, we know that people have money that they are not spending, they're being cautious with it, understandably. So we actually introduced a very competitive and standout rate that people will get, profit rate, that people will get on their current account balances, not a saving account, a current account balance, because we know they need the flexibility to take money out and they want that money to work. They're not sure where to put it. In addition to that, as nuts as this sounds, we also introduced home financing at the lowest rate in the market, and similarly with personal financing. Why? Because there's individuals who still have plans during this time, and we want to support them with their plans. So actually, what we're doing in the short term is that we're supporting customers and growing our book, and not just holding back and waiting for the economy to upswing. At the same time, someone may say this is a risky strategy, but at the same time, what we're doing is investing, not just investing in people. You'll see some of the work that we've done to bring in well-regarded folks within the country into the bank, into leadership roles, and also within our own talent to new roles. And we continue to invest into people to drive our business forward. We're investing heavily into technology, and we are getting support from our shareholder with capital as well. So that's what I would say. I would say that if people are waiting to kitchen sink anything, most folks will wait till next year, because this year's not going to be great. Yes, we've taken that hit on our balance sheet. Malaysia suffered, our customers suffered, and we suffered. But during this time, we're with our customers, we're demonstrating what we can do through actual products and propositions, and we're also investing for the future. Is it a big risk? Not if it's navigated well, and I think that we have the team here to navigate it well.
Now, this is a classic case of Warren Buffett's go when others are fearful. Now, where do you see then, because you are such a part of such a large entity, you are Rajhi Bank, you are top 20 bank in the world, but Malaysia is the only presence in Southeast Asia. Is there cross-border opportunities for you in terms of financing and growing your portfolio out of Malaysia?
So we did this year introduce an allocation for cross-border financings because it's naturally the case that there will be opportunities for us in Malaysia, and therefore for the group, to benefit from opportunities that are not based in the locations we either have a branch or a subsidiary. So yes, we are actively looking at that, and that's going relatively well. Again, most of the world's in lockdown, but there are certainly opportunities, and we are addressing those. But that's kind of more on the corporate side. Additionally, on the retail side, what we're looking to do is support folks who have pilgrimage flows, and there's financial solutions that we can help them with to help their individual members who are going on pilgrimage. So there is kind of this retail corridor that we help not just in Malaysia, but in other jurisdictions as well.
And
so
that's
yes,
a very large corridor.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yes,
It's a good large. Yeah, it's a good one to be sitting on. And to be honest, it's been really helpful for us because at the moment there's not much Hajj and Umrah going on. It's been really helpful for us this time to be able to see how we can bring better propositions to folks, and we've actually been working on that with the group, and just watch this space.
And where do you see, because now you're in a transformation mode, you've realized that you're going to be investing in technology and stuff, and Malaysia has positioned itself as an Islamic finance leader. Where do you see the opportunities then for our Rajhi Bank specifically to get a bigger share of the pie? Obviously, what you just told us is one example of that.
Yeah, so I mean, I think here we certainly are very clear about our ambitions in terms of having leadership in customer advocacy. We want third-party validation if we're doing something good, and we want to have validation through awards in innovation. That's what we want to do. In terms of growing Islamic financing, I think many folks will realize that the Muslim customer journey, the ethical customer journey, is not fully owned by anybody. And that's something that when you can connect with people on that ethical, or in this case, also religious level, and understand that what you're trying to do as a bank is help them to navigate their plans in a way where that doesn't matter, and in a way that's meaningful for them. Those are the areas that we think that will resonate very strongly with customers. Because increasingly, what you see in the banking sector, and this is generic, it's not just Islamic banking, but what you see in the banking sector is that it's kind of, here's a range of products, can we fit it somewhere else in your choices?
Yes.
And that was important when products didn't exist. But right now, it's talking to people in a more nuanced way. And we think that through digital, we can do that, as you mentioned earlier, become intimate. And we think that that drives the growth for us within Malaysia. We're a relatively small market share. The idea of getting that right and then being able to leverage that elsewhere certainly has a lot of potential for the future. However, getting that right in Malaysia, a leading Islamic finance market, will allow us to demonstrate a credential or demonstrate a model that has applicability absolutely anywhere else. So in terms of the actual growth, yes, we see that actually coming from a greater alignment of meeting customers' needs and effectively being able to be, folks who have ambitions, folks who have plans. We're basically designing our products and services to support them in their plans. That's really what we're seeing, how we will grow. Now, that speaks to Muslims and non-Muslims, of course, naturally, But certainly that area of, if you want to call it Islamic or ethical, is an area that we want to deeply focus on, because we think that that transcends any specific religious sensibility.
Now, also, I want to turn the attention to really the speculation around mergers and acquisitions within the group itself, within Rajhi Bank Malaysia. What were the challenges that derailed the proposed merger with MIDF?
Well, look, that was pre my time, so I don't have much information as to what happened through the discussions and the negotiations. But certainly, being an ambitious bank and Malaysia being an important jurisdiction, the bank certainly wanted to succeed. And I can fully understand how a strategic alignment would help in that ambition. So I don't have much information there, but what I do think, and I'm a big believer in organic growth by truly understanding customer journeys really well. I think that that provides us an opportunity now to organically grow by just being able to have best-in-class products and services for the jurisdiction that we're in.
And there was also talk about a merger with Kuwait Finance House, which is the other Islamic foreign-owned financial group. Have there been any talks in that area?
So, it's one of those things that comes up a lot, right? So there was, since I've been in Malaysia twice, there was the Bank Muamalat Bank Islam one. Now that always comes up. And then there's also the Al Rajhi and KFH one. And I think that if there's any truth to it, if anyone could let me know so I can update the strategy, that'd be helpful. We'll need to make some changes to the strategy if that's true. But yeah, I think these are the things that tend to come up. And I think that they come up because if you look at the Malaysian market, I think it's fair to say at some point you're probably going to see consolidations, whether that's kind of Malaysian banks or whatever. I think that talk's been around for a while. My sense is that in the years to come, it's not unreasonable in the market in Malaysia to see that. However, I can say that it is certainly not in the strategy document that I have for us. But
okay. Now, what are your key objectives for the rest of the year and in 2022? Because basically you've outlined a very clear strategy. You're going to go after the retail side of the business. You're going to use technology. You're going to partner with fintechs to basically collaborate and offer new products and services. But what sort of growth numbers are you looking at for this year and next year?
Yeah, so the first thing is that we have a run the bank and change the bank agenda here. So we have an existing bank and existing customers, and we're going to grow that. We need to grow that. We'll grow that, and that's going to be an important part of our business over this year and actually next year, because any of the things that we do through digital will take time to put into place. It won't take time that it usually took time to set up businesses like in the past, but it will take some time. Now, over this year, we expect to see aggressive growth. I can't particularly say and commit to a particular number, but I think what we'll see is aggressive growth this year and next year from our asset books, and that's what we're aiming towards. So I'm not going to give you
You're thinking about hiring. Does that mean that you're going to have a lot more front office people as well going out and getting business for you?
So, okay. So I'll get onto that bit just in a moment when we talk about the digital side.
Sure.
So when we talk about a channel, if you're going to put $1 in any channel right now, it's a digital channel. And it just gives you a huge amount of reach. So yes, we're certainly hiring, and we will be hiring, and I think people would have seen some stuff on LinkedIn. We're asking for people with skill sets in the digital space to come and join us. That side of it is certainly an area we'll be hiring heavily in order to make sure that we have the best in class, and we're talking about globally, best in class digital assets. And we intend to do something with that, and people will see more of that next year. So what we have planned is ongoing, and we're doing it right now. And we intend to people to see more of what that is and be able to experience that next year. So a very aggressive timeline plan for that. In terms of the existing business, we see very, very significant growth in that. And I think that by the time we get to our year-end numbers, you would have seen the signs of that upswing occurring across both of our retail and corporate businesses. And the way that we've been doing it is just working closely with our existing customers, particularly in the corporate space. So that's broadly the strategy, using our existing Run the Bank to run it a lot more efficiently and show very significant growth. And then in terms of the digital side, which is how to change the bank, people will see what that looks like next year, so the execution goes to plan. Again, that's a lot of where the investment in people will be going.
Now, Oz, it's been a fascinating conversation. Any final thoughts you would like to leave us before we end this conversation?
Well, look, I mean, I think I'll take that whole step back piece again, which is I think the country has suffered. I think there's a lot of folks that need to come together to support our individual customers through these difficult times. And part of that is looking more in the medium term to collaborate and work together. And so one of the notes that, I'd leave with is there's two things I've said there. One, have a look at what we are trying to do to support our individual customers through products and services that we're doing right now today. And they've been designed to help people through the difficulties that we're facing. And the second piece is that we're very actively looking to collaborate with people in what we're doing in our technology and digital agenda to not just grow our business, but grow the ecosystem around digital and technology within Malaysia. And I think both of those things would help us collectively get a better start or slightly quicker resolution to normality. We can all play our small part, and that's the small part that we want to play.
Oz, it's been a fascinating conversation. Thank you for taking the time to come on the show.
Thank you very much for having me. I've really enjoyed it.
I'm Brian Fernandez, and I've been speaking to Arsalaan Ahmed, the CEO of Rajhi Bank Malaysia, on Biztech's CEO Conversation Show. This video will be on our Facebook and LinkedIn sites, as well as our website, www.biztech.asia. Please subscribe or like our various platforms. Thanks a lot for tuning in.